Hi everyone, my name is Jason Miller. I do global content for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions specifically. LinkedIn is a very big company. We have the LTS, which is LinkedIn Talent Solutions, LSS, which is LinkedIn Sales Solutions, and then LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, which is LMS, which is which I lead. So anyway, I look at content a little bit differently. I have a background working in the entertainment industry. I shoot concert photography for my hobby. Rock and Roll Cocktail is my personal blog. If you want to check that out. Anyway, so I think of content a little bit differently, but I focus on top of funnel. I used to run content social at Marketo. We had really good success kind of flipping B2B marketing upside down its head, trying different things, experimenting. We found a formula that works. It's called the Big Rock Piece of Content. It's top of funnel, and I'm going to show you 3 ways to create this and some success stories along the way that I've had. So you might think to yourself, why is a man from LinkedIn here talking about content marketing? We are moving towards a big push with content on LinkedIn to help our members, be better at what they do, to inspire them, educate them, sometimes entertain, right? But the opportunity here is one of every 3 professionals on the planet is on LinkedIn. What does it say to you? It says there is an opportunity, right? An opportunity to connect with these people in a professional mindset. I like to think that on other social networks, which I won't name, people spend time, but on LinkedIn, our members are investing time, right? It's a different frame of minds, professional mindset. They're there to consume information, be better at what they do, and learn and research, right? So this is a really interesting stat, is that our content pages receive 7 times the pages our job pages do. And again, what does that say? There's an opportunity. Our members are craving professionally relevant content, and there's an opportunity for us as marketers to deliver this. And again, as I mentioned, we're moving towards the definitive professional publishing platform as we move forward. So a place to consume, share, and engage with other professionals, right? So let's talk about content. I'm sure we're all sick and tired of hearing people say that content is king, right? So am I. So I propose today that we start calling content the whiz, because nobody beats the whiz. No good? All right. Anyway, I'm the only person in the history of LinkedIn to quote Joe Biafra. Anyone know Joe Biafra? He's the singer of Dead Kennedys. The reason I like this quote is because back in the 70s, there was this punk rock movement happening while disco was ruling the airwaves, right? All the critics nobody would write about punk rock. They'd only write about disco, right? But these punk rock bands, they had a message, they had something to say. But in order to get their message through, they had to become so outlandish. So the Ramones, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Dead Kennedys, all these guys became so outlandish that they again, my famous quote from Joe Biafra, don't hate the media, become the media. They became the media. And why is this so relevant right now? Because as content marketers, it doesn't matter if you started 10 years ago, if you start today. You can start right now and make an impact in the next few hours if you want tomorrow. But the important thing is that you start. Now, we don't need to get into more content, which I'll get into in a second. But so we all know this stat too. Why are we doing this in the first place? Because 60% of the buying cycle is done. It's probably 70, maybe 75% by now. But all this research is being done before they're ready to talk to anybody, your salespeople, right? So they're self-educating themselves. We all know that. So this is where the top of the funnel comes in. This is the current content marketing experience online. It's horrible. It's like walking through Times Square. It's being bombarded with irrelevant messages left and right. And it's a mess. And I'll tell you, it's up to us as marketers to deliver a better content experience, right? As you're going to see here today, Lee mentioned it, the gentleman from Google mentioned it. The data's out there. We need to harness this into becoming a personalized journey. Because if we don't, somebody else will do it. And the key ingredient to a better content experience is relevance, right? Say it with me, everybody. Relevance. Anyway, but relevance. So we don't need more content. We don't need more content. This is not write 15,000 blogs a day, right? The content engines are going away. The content farms, right? We know that. So you don't need more content. You need more relevant content. We need to focus even more. How do you get to relevance? Well, this is a quote from Roy Williams, the famous ad man. I borrowed this from Brian Eisenberg, one of the smartest conversion guys on the planet. And the quote is, speak to the dog in the language of the dog about what's in the heart of the dog. That is the best way to get to relevance that I've ever seen in my life. And I think personas is usually how we get to relevance, right? But I think there's a flaw with personas. Does anybody know the origin of the word persona? It comes from the ancient Greek language. And it means mask, right? So along the way, we've kind of lost this meaning of persona. But the Greeks didn't use it to cover up. They used it to play these characters in the theater that were bigger than life. They would have one person playing several different roles. They had these huge features that could be seen from the last row of stadiums they were playing in. But they would play these actors would play demigods and deities, right? Bigger than life characters. And somehow along the way, I think we lost that. Anyone see this movie? Anyone know this movie? Shout it out if you know it. One of my favorite movies of this year is called Blue Jasmine. Now, Kate Blanchett is the star of Blue Jasmine. She's a stunning actress. She's amazing what she does. But when she got called by Woody Allen to play the role in this film, she could have easily watched. The movie is about a broken down socialite from the financial crisis, right? So while she's researching her role, she could have easily watched the 60 Minutes episode with Bernie Madoff's widow, or whatever, and watched these broken down socialites on TV. But no, instead she took a step further, and this is where I'm going with this. I think we need to step into our customers' shoes, much like she was on Broadway, and she went to where these broken down socialites were hanging out in these bars on the Upper East Side of New York, and she drank with them, and she quoted, was sipping martinis with these people, observing them, watching them in their space. This is the true definition of a persona. You are living and breathing your customers. You're in there, and you're experiencing them, and then you bring that back and you put that into your content. That's where we're headed here, right? So so we have a definition, we have a way to get there, we know what we need to do. What's the formula? Well, there's no magic formula, but Ann Handley, one of the smartest content marketers on the planet, she wrote the book called Content Rules. It is the Bible on content marketing. If you do not have this, I highly recommend it. I have 3 copies of this thing. This is essential reading for anybody. Now, I asked Ann, I saw her speak, I've seen her speak a million times. I said, Ann, what's that formula you put up? She emailed this to me, and I literally cut and pasted and dropped it in this slide. But useful times, enjoyable times, inspired time equals innovative content, right? So you have to take these, those are multiplication symbols, right? So if one is off, the others will not work. So let's start with useful. Is this thing useful? Is it useful? Is it answering a question? We heard a lot about that this morning, right? Number 2, is it inspiring? Can they get through the whole goddamn post? Is it inspiring them to take action? If it's not inspiring somebody to take action after they read something, then you're doing it wrong, then you're missing the key, then you're not being relevant. And I forgot, enjoyable. Again, can they get through this piece of content? Is it a nice read? Is it way too long? Is it too much information? Is there too much fluff? This combination is what I look at every time I create a piece of content, and it works. It's not easy, but again, you don't have to do this in mass volumes. You have to do, Doug Kessler famously says, 1 home run per quarter. Focus on 1 home run per quarter, and that's going to be the big rock, which I'm going to talk about. So where do you start with this, right? I always go back to the dude. The blog is the social media rub that ties the room together. The blog is not the sexiest thing in the world, right? But it is the essential place. It's the mothership. It's where your content lives. It's the place where you control the story. Why do you not want to own your own attention? This is the place to do it. You have to start on the blog. This is the place that's going to be all the tentacles out there, and social, but it's going to come back, and you're going to own this conversation. So, this is how I think of a blog. I borrowed this from HubSpot. Have you ever seen the blogging bloopers? Anyway. I can't believe this thing is not big. One person, thank you. I cannot believe this is not a bigger thing, a bigger deal. I saw this. This is from Rick Burns. He wrote a blog about this in HubSpot about 5 or 6 years ago. And I've been using it. I used it in Marketo. I brought it over LinkedIn, and it works wonders. It is just a great way to differentiate your content with a different angle each day, right? Not more content, but more relevant content. Relevant content on this track, all back to keeping within this umbrella of this keyword relevance you're looking for, right? So, on Mondays, we start off, this is in no particular order, and you do not have to follow this religiously. But on Mondays, we have a thing called Raisin Brand. Raisin Brand is stuff that's easy to dish out. It's how-to tips. It's keyword rich, right? It's helpful posts. It's Monday. You don't want to overwhelm these people. They just got back from the weekend. Start them off light. Give them a quick tip on something. That's Raisin Brand. Number 2, spinach. A little bit more difficult to chew, even though it's good for you. This is stuff that makes people think. It's Tuesday. They're starting the week. They're starting to wake up from a hangover over the weekend, right? This is where you really go after them. These can be thought leadership type posts, but it's definitely time to step it up. Then you go into Wednesday. Wednesday is the roast. The roast is something you don't want to overdo. It's this enormous 3,200 word blog post, lots of links, lots of research, but you're going to own this topic, right? You are going to own this topic. It's going to take some time. People are going to bookmark this. They're going to save it for later. They're going to spend some time on this. This is the roast. They're going to chew on this for a little while. Then Thursday, we'll get into some of my favorite Tabasco content. Tabasco content is where you start a little fire with somebody, right? Light a little bit of fire. I love this because in any industry, you don't have to be controversial, but you can take a very strong opinion on something, right? Derek Halpern from Social Triggers, I don't know if anybody knows this guy, he does a really good job at this, where he goes out and he finds 2 opposing views that are relevant to his audience, and he calls them out on his own blog, and he writes this beautiful blog post. And then he reaches out to each person with the opposing view and says, hey, so-and-so said this. And then he reaches out to the other person and says, so-and-so said this. Leads into the blog. Here comes this heated conversation, tens and hundreds of comments, but he's controlling the conversation. And if he's set up properly, he can convert this traffic. But the idea is to get the relevance, the conversation, the engagement, and just get the people in, bring them in. I think it's a great tactic. So, and then finally, my favorite on Friday. Time to send these people into the weekend and have a little bit of fun, right? So we call this chocolate cake content. And this is fun type stuff, right? So I brought a couple examples of each type of content. I'll show you 2 pieces of chocolate cake that I created. So I'm going to apply the blogging food groups to if I was creating a big rock piece of content around heavy metal, because that's kind of what I do in my spare time. So this is the Raisin brand. Monday, starting off, how to appreciate heavy metal. Very quick how-to post. Very simple, very visual. I like it, right? Let's go into Tuesday. We're going to get this finished. How heavy metal's keeping us sane. This is a deep story about this guy who goes into Starbucks, and instead of murdering people because they're taking too long pouring sugar into their coffee, he listens to Black Sabbath and lives out his fantasies through his headphones. It's making me think right now. It's a little weird how I phrased that. But the idea is spinach. It's thoughtful, thought-provoking content. I would consider whoever wrote this to be a thought leader in the world of heavy metal, and I would follow them, right? Love it. Then Wednesday, this is the big roast. This is the history of new wave of British heavy metal. This is going to have Saxon and Judas Priest. It's going to have tons of links. It's going to have quotes and thought leadership pieces inside of it. This is a beast. He is going to own this conversation. Search for the history of new wave of British heavy metal and see what comes up, right? This guy, he owns it. The roast. Then Thursday, the Tabasco. This guy pisses me off, right? 5 70s metal bands were better than Black Sabbath? That's impossible. Black Sabbath invented heavy metal. I'm going to have a problem with this guy. But you know what? He's got me. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to comment on his blog. I'm going to be nice. Hopefully we'll get a little engagement going. So, let's get into chocolate cake, which is my favorite. I actually wrote this post here. This is called, this is easy content curation, by the way. So, I went to Amazon, searched on one of my favorite albums, Led Zeppelin 4. Arguably the greatest rock and roll album of all time. And I thought, who the hell is going to give Led Zeppelin 4 a 1-star review? Well, I found several of them, and I pulled them all together, and people are butchering Led Zeppelin 4. Right? Funny, chocolate cake, easy, but my favorite content, or my favorite comment was here. Yes, I know some people gave this album 5 stars, but I've seen some 5-star reviews for the movie Howard the Duck here. Right? It's fun. Here's my favorite piece of chocolate cake content. When I was working at Marquette, I went to Vegas to see Guns N' Roses, right? To shoot them for my blog. Now, if I had to rank moments of my life, it would be wedding day, Guns N' Roses in Vegas. Like, that's it, right? So I'm coming back, slightly hungover on the plane, and I'm like, man, I love this band so much, and I wrote this piece called 5 Content Marketing Lessons from Guns N' Roses. Now, it's useful, it's helpful. These are actually really good branding tips and content tips, but what would happen next would blow my mind completely. You ready for this? Guns N' Roses retweeted this Marquette post. This is not Photoshop, this is real. That means that Axl Rose may or may not have seen my content. What does that do for Marquette? Absolutely nothing. What does it do for my ego? It tells me to write all this shit. But it also makes for a really great story. And I'll tell you what, the little thing now says photo cursing. I took this photo the night before this happened, right? So, but again, Guns N' Roses, man, they had a hell of a following. Again, really nothing. No, I'm kind of moving away from my relevant thing. Let me get back to that. So, anyway, this is the big rock piece of content. This is your stake in the ground, right? What I said before, not more content, more relevant content. You need to make a big, substantial piece of content. And what I mean by that is the all-encompassing guide to whatever the hell you do. It answers all of your questions, put some third-party validation in there, some interviews. Write it strategically instead of instructionally, because what happens when you get an instruction manual? You throw it in the trash and you go to YouTube, right? Because nobody likes instruction manuals. So do not write your content instructionally. In fact, try to keep the product people as far away from you as you can until the final review. Keep that on the deal. I didn't say that. But anyway, so the big rock piece of content. Then, what do? This guy came up to me in content marketing and he said, dude, I love your content, but there's too much value there. We were making these definitive guys at Marquette. I'll show you one with LinkedIn. But he said, there's too much value. I said, what are you talking about? What marketer's ever downloaded a piece of content and gave it back to me and said, there's too much value here? No marketer I know of. It's silly, right? But he had a short-sighted view because he didn't think of the turkey analogy. What is the turkey analogy? The turkey analogy comes from Rebecca Lee at the Altimeter Group, one of the smartest content marketers on the planet. I asked her years ago at AdTech, I said, Rebecca, what do you do when a business says, I don't have enough content laying around, right? She says, look at what you have. I don't have enough content to fuel my social and my expansion. So she says, look around what you have and think about your content as leftover turkey. So on Thanksgiving, you have this giant bird, right? And what do you do for the next 30 days after Thanksgiving? You're chopping the shit out of this thing. I'm sorry, Kristen, but I get so excited. I turn into Chris Farley, the motivational speaker who lives down by the river. I get so excited about this. Anyway, but the idea is, you take the content you have and you think of it like leftover turkey. And you slice and dice this thing into so many different things. So you make turkey sandwiches, turkey soup. You're making things with turkey that nobody's ever thought of before. But it's working. It's feeding your family, right? This is good stuff, right? So you have the big rock. Then you're repurposing that into the many different things here. Now let's get into examples. There are 3 ways that I discovered to create the big rock piece of content. This works for B2B, B2C, works for B to anything. So let's get ready. And again, the way I set this up is there are no original ideas anymore. David Bowie, during his Ziggy Stardust phase, which he was crazy, labyrinth, out of his mind, looked like a crazy person. Some journalist came up to him and said, David Bowie, Mr. Bowie, are you original? He said, absolutely not. He said, no one's original. And I'll show you the rest of the quote in a second. But the idea is, take these ideas and make them your own. Put your own spin on them. This is a startup in San Francisco called Pantheon. Pantheon is a 30-person startup. And I hear this all the time, oh, I don't have the resources to invest in this big rock content. There's one person on this marketing team. And I love this example so much that I used it, but I love sharing this example. So this is their big rock piece of content. They took content they had sitting around, right? They took case studies. Anybody can do this. If you don't want to invest in a big rock, they took case studies, which are traditionally bottom of the funnel. Case studies are the bottom of the funnel when people get ready to close. They took that, and they flipped these case studies on their head and turned them into top of funnel content. I love this concept, because anybody can do this, by just changing how they frame it. So they went from case studies to 8 amazing Drupal launches. Pantheon is a Drupal hosting platform, by the way. And I love this because they took 8 case studies and turned them into success stories and gated it and then put it at the top of the funnel. Nice little twist, just like David St. Hubbins from Spinal Tap says, there's a fine line between stupid and clever. This is clever. So that's the big rock, it's gated. Let's go into the turkey slice. So turkey slice number 1, Twitter. Easy, right? Tweet this thing out, but no, it's not that easy because you have to get a little image that pre-populates. This is important. The difference between a tweet with an image, with an offer to a piece of content, and one without is night and day, right? The engagement, I don't know the exact numbers, I'll get back to you on that, but it's substantial. I'd say very substantial. Then, oh, I love this one. They took the same damn content and put it into a SlideShare deck. SlideShare is one of the most underutilized tools for B2B. And people think of it as a content repository. I hate that word, repository. SlideShare is not a content repository. It is a platform for visual content thought leadership. Look at the people who are on there who own their terms. Look at Moz, look at Rand Fishkin. You want to talk about search on SlideShare? They own that keyword. Inbound marketing, HubSpot owns it. Now, I mean, this is open game. It's indexed by Google. This is another spot on the home page, on page 1. You can get by taking your same exact content and putting it into a self-guided visual journey on SlideShare. How much does this cost? It's free. SlideShare is free. The repurposing thing, that's another story. But Pantheon took their big rock piece of content, put it into SlideShare, and within 3 days had 5,000 views. 5,000 views. Are you kidding me? On a B2B presentation? That's crazy. What does that say? Just like Lee said this morning. It says that people are in control of not only the buying cycle, but they're in control of how and where they consume your content. This is a channel that if you are not present in, you are simply missing opportunities. Next turkey slice, the blog. As I mentioned before, the social media web that ties the room together. But then you make it interactive, right? So one hefty blog post, I would call it a little bit of spinach. Interactive with a little tweet this, get the tentacles out there. That's all tied back to the home base, right? Then you go into the webinar. Then they turn the same damn content. We're on the one piece of content, folks. This is enough to fuel one entire quarter of social and demand gen all together, right? We're on the same damn piece of content, and they're pulling in leads like you wouldn't believe. So the webinar, easy to do, gated, so you can get extra people on this one and pull them back, right? And then finally, we need an extra push. If you don't know this, this is Nigel Topnell talking to a documentary filmmaker about when they're on stage, and when Spinal Tap needs that extra push, and they're at 10, where can they go, where can they go? Where can they go? 11. They can go to 11. So when you need to turn up your content marketing up to 11, you go into sponsored updates. You got to pay, and I'm a little LinkedIn biased, right? But again, it's pay to promote your own good content. This is where we live. It's 2014. If you do not have budget set aside to pay to promote your own good content, then you're in trouble, right? So I call inbound plus outbound equals heavy metal thunder. And people will tell you inbound is enough. Inbound marketing alone is not enough. Inbound marketing alone is like hanging out with the same group of high school kids your entire life. And I hated high school. I don't want to go back to that. Right? But if you want to break through that initial reach, that second degree, that coveted connections of connections, friends of friends, and break out that initial reach audience, you need to pay to promote your own good content. That's where we're at. Native advertising. There's a reason that term is such a big buzzword. This is not a buzzword. This is reality. You have to do this, right? So again, pay to promote your own good content. And on a side note, mobile is accelerating content consumption. As Lee talked about this earlier this morning, if you don't have a consistent experience across each device, if you have somebody pinching and twisting and trying to fill out a form and doing this kind of thing, it's not going to work. It's not a good experience. Your boundary is going to go through. If your landing page is not going to get any form fills, and you're going to look like they're going to go to the next result, whatever. But the idea is, this is really interesting. This is real LinkedIn data. So what we have here is we have what the idea here is this is consumption times for visitors on LinkedIn. So what you see here is you see in the morning, you're waking up, you see the desktop kind of spikes there in the morning around lunch. You see the tablet spikes in the evening, but what do you notice about the smartphone? Because we cannot put these goddamn things down, is that it is on us all the time. So you have to have this consistent experience across all these devices. We call this from coffee to couch, because you wake up in the morning with one device and you're on the couch in the evening with another. But the idea is to have that consistent experience, so it's super important to do that. The visual is in a headline. Years ago, David Ogilvy famously said that once you've written your headline, you spent 80 cents to your dollar. I say the same is true now once you've chosen your visual. This is a cat flying on a carpet made of bacon through a galaxy. This is the most compelling image I've ever seen in my entire life. I will click on this, no matter what's on. Well, it's not dangerous. But yeah, the visuals in a headline. But every time somebody talks about visual content, they talk about it like it's going to save your strategy. I'm here to tell you it's not true. But it is an essential part. And then you see the blog post where everybody thinks they're really original. Oh, pictures worth 1,000 words. Not true. You know why? Because I'll tell you the origin of that. This is Printers Inc. magazine in 1921. This is where this actually came from. A man named Frederick Barnard, who was a marketer. I like this guy. He's clever. He's a marketer. He came up with this idea. He wanted to sell, whatever the hell he has to sell here, but he came up with a headline that says, this is the actual ad. One look is worth 1,000 words. But he didn't get the reaction he was looking for. So like a good marketer, what did he do? He tried again. So this is the second attempt. He turned it into a Chinese proverb. You can't even do that, right? This is a marketer. Right? This is Printers Inc. magazine. The same ad, 6 years later, 1927. Our good man, Frederick Barnard, thought it would have more credibility if it came from a Chinese person, and he called it a Chinese proverb. Well, it turns out that this went on for years and years and caught on, and it comes up to the famous pictures worth 1,000 words. But back in the 90s, there was a man named Alan Blackman who did a little research, and he found out, through his research group, he found out that, in fact, research shows that pictures really only worth 81.4 words on average. So, again, it's not going to save your strategy, but it's an essential part. Why is that? Like I say, for those about to create visual content, we salute you, right? But anyway, I took that one out, sorry. Anyway, 5 reasons for going visual. I realize the irony of the bullet points I'm talking about visual, all right? If anybody tweets at me later, I've gotten it before, I can take it. But I'm not going to go through these line by line, but you can see, really quick, we're all visual thinkers. It aids in decision making, it's more persuasive, the list goes on and on. It's psychology, man, this works. Taking content and text and turning it into something that's very easily consumable, right? It's a win-win for everybody. So, And before we go further, let me just clarify, the infographic is not dead. Claiming that something is dead is so devastating. Right? It's so last year. Poorly designed infographics will always be dead. If you create an infographic just to create a damn infographic, it's not going to perform well. But if you have a complex idea or a fun idea, and you want to portray it in an easily shareable piece that breaks down this idea, then that is going to work. If you seed the folks that you want to carry this on, if you go to Mashable, you say, Mashable, what are you looking for? And then you take a relevant spin on your own content and create some type of infographic. This is highly shareable stuff, right? I will show you one example. You have to have kids and bacon and everything. So when I was in Marquette, I walked into John Miller's office, no relation, and I said, John, I have this idea for an infographic called, it's going to be the biggest infographic of all time, it's called Kittens versus Bacon. I can't lose, right? And you know what he said to me? He goes, I don't hate it. Which means, at Marquette, it means full steam ahead, right? So then I created this thing. But again, you don't just create an infographic to create an infographic. I looked at what's the value of marketers. So we start off here with a little bit of comparison to real numbers, comparing all the mentions of cats. Then we compare it to actual people, cats versus Kim Kardashian, bacon versus bacon, of course. And then where's the takeaway? You're thinking, I know you people can step out of mind. Where's the takeaway? Where's the value of marketers? Here you go. How can marketers leverage feline friends and bacon? And we give you 3 tips. And these are solid tips, man. I use these tips. They work. So let's go on to another example where I really think this one's going to blow your mind. Let's see if it works. So this is an infographic that we pulled using data that was already out based on content marketing. LinkedIn made a big push for content marketing. We want to show how relevant this is to our audience. So call up Joe Pleasy and Ann Hanley, who ran the survey, and said, hey, I'd like to use your data. I'm going to pay for the content. I'm going to pay for Column 5 to create the infographic. Let's see what we do. They said, run with it. Let's launch it on the same day. And we chopped this thing into 3 different infographics, right? So it's 3 different stories. So the beautiful thing is we have this enormous, long, original piece of content that's the infographic, but it's got 3 little mini stories, right? So now we have options for all the press from Mashable, how to post, etc., etc. They can either pick up the entire infographic, or they can take little pieces of it, little digestible, snackable pieces. I hate that word snackable. I can't really just use that. But the idea is to give them options, and you'll see results. So instead of 1 link back, one of these major pubs, you can potentially get 3, right? And link backs are up. Well, let me just show you the results. This is from 1 infographic, man. And let me tell you what, the success we had on this was not because we're LinkedIn. We're LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, man. LinkedIn's up here. We're kind of down here hanging out trying to make our own audience. But look at it. Publisher total unique visitors. 178 million people. That's unique visitors. Now, watch this. Total potential viewership. That says 3 billion. Are you kidding me? Somebody poke holes in this number, man. This is ComScore. This is ComScore numbers. That means that 1/3 of the planet may or may not have seen this infographic, including Axl Rose. Kill me. Anyway, and then the most important thing, 33 link backs and over 8,000 shares. Now we stopped counting the link backs after 30 days because we got the ones we wanted to. We got these big top tier pubs to link back to us. We got exposure, we got eyeballs, we got people associating LinkedIn with content marketing now, which was a difficult thing to do in the world where everyone thinks LinkedIn is an online resume, right? This is 1 infographic, the 1 home run per quarter, because we took time, we used good data, we used better design, and we seeded it to make sure that it was going to be a success. It's a no-lose situation. Those are those are the first 3 that came in, by the way. So Mashable, Entrepreneur, Huffington Post, man, these are big deals. And now once we get in there, we have a relationship with them, so we come back with our next one. They're much more likely to even take a look at or publish. And again, anybody can do this, easy stuff. So, the big rock piece of content does not have to be boring, right? Giving marketers like to have fun too. So I'll show you a couple examples of big rock content. I have this theory, right? Because I come from this rock and roll background. I work in the music industry. I'm not a B2B marketer, but I was like forced into this to think like a B2B marketer. It wasn't working out for me. So what I did was I gave one of my first B2B campaigns, one of my big campaigns, to a B2C agency. And I remember calling my buddy Chris and I said, hey man, I've got this B2B campaign. I looked at this, what's B2B? I said, perfect. Don't look this up. I don't want you to know what I just said to you. And so what happened was we created one of the biggest pieces of content ever in marketing. It's called the Big Marketing Activity Color Book, right? And you might think this is silly, we had a revenue cycle maze in here. We had dress up a marketer. We had color the influencers. We seeded this with influencers, right? So you can color in Brian Solis. And it's kind of fun. And once these, it's called the ego baiting thing where these people get this and they share it with the audience. But we tied this back to actual revenue because I was using Marketo, right? Once you use marketing automation, you can tie back your content marketing. The people who say you can't measure social and content or other damn minds. It's easy to do if you have the right resources in place, right? So this was driving pipeline. A coloring book was driving pipeline in the B2B world. Who would have thought that? And where'd the idea come from? This came out of the smoking gun a few years ago, and myself and Maria Pergolino saw this. This is the writer. This is what Dave Grohl, who's a super smart marketer, right? This is what Dave Grohl sends to the venue that he's getting ready to play. And he says, instead of this 14-page fax where you have to read all the way to the back to make sure you don't put the Brian notes in there, he sent over a coloring book, an activity book, to each venue he plays. And they go through, they go, oh, babies, 17 hot dogs, and a case of beer, or whatever. It's funny. So I said, why can't we do that in the B2B space? So that's where the inspiration goes. But the idea is, this stuff can be fun. Not all the time. This is chocolate cake to the extreme. This is the biggest damn piece of chocolate cake you've ever seen in your life. And when I came to John with this idea, what did he say? Thank you. Perfect. Don't tell John I said that. Anyway, and then I brought that philosophy over to LinkedIn. And again, this is where we took some influencer posts, the influencer on LinkedIn, and we found some of my favorite posts, some ones that I thought really inspired marketers. And we pulled them together in this piece called Frolic in the Snow for Those in the Know. And you should, the titles didn't make it, man. They were risque, to say the least. But anyway, this is where the fun big rock piece of content comes in. We curated the content, pulled out all this reading material. It's relevant to our audience. It's fun, it's engaging. And then we made little snow people. That's me with the ACD t-shirt on. But you can see Joe Cleasy, Ann Hanley, and Dave Kirpin. And then when I sent notes out to these people saying, hey, we created this great piece of content, using your content and kind of pulled it all together, they love the fact that we're promoting them, but I also sent them a little avatar of themselves as a little attachment. And then all of a sudden you start seeing people pop up on LinkedIn with little snowman avatars, and then Facebook, and then Twitter. It was really fun, engaging, and this thing did really well for us. And again, it was easy to do. It was big rock content we curated based off of existing content. So this really drives me crazy because people overcomplicate content marketing all the time. It makes me crazy. If you look at some of these waterfall models, it looks like the layout for a nuclear reactor or something, right? It's insane. We don't have to complicate this stuff. There are a million blogs out there with a million different ways how to measure this stuff. I will tell you 3 that work for me. And reporting to John Lewis, again, it's the third time I missed it, I got to crush or something on John. But one of the smartest marketers in the world, John has a degree in physics and he's a marketer, so you can understand my hellish experience trying to put together a dashboard that this guy would accept. Right? He said, experiment all you want, but tie everything you do back to a metric. That was the rule. But this is what we've been measuring. We measure LinkedIn. Is 3 things. Number 1, increased referral traffic. But take it a step further. Increased non-brand keyword referral traffic. What does that mean? That means people are coming to your site but without typing in your brand name. Where else are they coming from? Well, they're coming from your content. Right? Number 2, social engagement. I know that Matt Cutts said that social engagement does not play any role in rankings. I can't wait till they actually figure that out because I think it's brilliant. But what you can use this metric for is relevance, right? The higher the likes, the shares, the comments, the +1s, etc., all this stuff shows relevance. It doesn't have to be astronomical, right? Don't let your ego hijack your content marketing strategy. It's about the right people who see this, the right people who are +1ing and liking, sharing, commenting this. So keep that in mind. But social engagement, if it's going up, then your relevance is going up, and your content strategy is working. Number 3, why are we doing this in the first place? Higher quality leads. If these people are coming into your funnel and they are closer to buying, that means your content is doing a good job, right? If they are closing deals quicker, if they're moving quicker from known name to marketing qualified lead to opportunity to closed revenue, it's all about getting as close as you can to that metric. So. And again, not to confuse that with, on LinkedIn specifically, we have a metric, we have a tool, a solution called the Content Marketing Score. The Content Marketing Score quantifies your content impact on LinkedIn. And it tells you 3 different things. It tells you which audience you should be targeting, which audience is engaging with your content, and where you can do better based on your content, based on your competition, right? And then that goes on to 3 different levers. You can fix it organically, you can improve it with different levels of engagement. But the idea is that's LinkedIn specific. This is a good general rule for going into your CMO and saying, these are not vanity metrics. These are real metrics. Tie this back to your marketing automation platform, put it at the top of the funnel, and watch it go back to revenue with the leads generated, and then you'll be a winner. So, David Bowie, again, after that comment, he said, are you original? The journalist asked Mr. Bowie if he's original. He said, no. He said, the only art I'll ever study is stuff that I can steal from. Sorry. Too many David Bowie. He says, David Bowie famously said, it's not who does it first, it's who does it best. So, my final example of the Big Rock piece of content, Big Rock again, is when I came over to LinkedIn. LinkedIn, a lot of people didn't know LinkedIn had a marketing solution, if you will, right? Because they were still thinking of the job search and the HR function. So, again, I saw a need, and Lee mentioned this before, but this was like based on our keyword research. And you guys all know about this. We dug in and we found out that people wanted to know how to market their content on LinkedIn. So I created the all-encompassing, this is 55 pages of LinkedIn marketing bliss in one book called Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn. Designed very well, written strategically instead of instructionally, and it included plenty of third-party folks like thought leaders, like Lee's in there. We did an interview with Lee. But it adds value, it adds validation, right? And the funny thing is at the end, I put together this list. People love lists. And it was called 25 Social Media Marketers You Need to Know. And it was basically people I've been following for years. And the funny thing is, somebody asked me how I came up with this list. Well, where's your algorithm? It was just people I liked, and I put it on a list, and I ranked them, and then I mixed them up a little bit. But it works, man. It's just it's becoming that thought leader in the space of LinkedIn marketing. When I got to LinkedIn, we searched on how do I market on LinkedIn. Everyone else was telling our story for us. Social Media Examiner, Social Media Explorer, Social Media Today, all own the top search results. But we got them back with this big rock piece of content. But remember the turkey slices. So what do you do with this? It's too much content. It's too much value here. No, there's not. So we turn this into little bits of content for SlideShare. 10 sophisticated tips from experts. We pull this content that's already created. Once you create this big rock piece of content, you're simply pulling and just putting a little fresh coat of paint on this for a different channel. We're launching the Sophisticated Marketers podcast next week. This is me and people talking about how to create content from real world in the trenches, man. This isn't the philosophical approach. I'm doing this stuff. And then we go into a smaller ebook, a little child ebook. Then we go into a couple of different blog posts. Then we go into 2 infographics, right? The infographic is not dead. We broke down a pretty good story in a nice visual, easily shareable format. It did really well. Then we did the webinar, of course. Then we printed the physical book. But again, these are all these tentacles out there. The big rock piece of content is gated. It's pulling in leads, man. It's this stake in the ground. It's owning our keywords. It's taking the back. It's authority. But these little turkey slices are the tentacles for the people who saw this and are not ready to give us their information yet. They say, the content purists out there drive me crazy. They say, don't gate top of funnel content. I say, gate it based on its value, right? If you're paying to promote this content, gate it. But these little tentacles, these turkey slices are out there, and they're not gated. They're pulling these people all back to our mothership. And they're saying, when you're ready, man, we're right here, but we're going to leak it out, little snippets here and there, just to entice you back. And then, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my entire life was taking this thing global. This is in Portuguese. This is the Portuguese version. I don't even know if this is right? I just have to trust my lead in Brazil. But again, this content just needs to be translated. And we didn't put any Golden Gate bridges in here or anything like that because we have a global view when we're creating this. And I think we're in like 3 or 4 different languages now. This is Deanna who runs our blog and runs our social channels at LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. Anyway, but yeah, so I think we're in 3 or 4 different languages, but it's all around the world. It's global. And I'll tell you what, these geos, man, it's tough being a content marketer in San Francisco when you're a global brand because your geos think that you only have yourself in mind, the US and Canada rule, right? It's not true. Every time we do a big rock piece of content, we do a kickoff call. Well, we do now because of this stuff. But anyway, I got it back on track, people. It came out. But the idea is we reach out and we make sure everybody's a piece of this, even though I'm driving and writing this stuff and creating, and Deanna's guiding along the way as well. So, anyway, there's the Sophisticated Guide to free download. And I like to end with that. But I will end with my favorite quote of all time. This is from Paul Stanley, right? People want a thrill, people want a spectacle, people love being entertained. We are content marketers, man. This is what we do. There's a time for business, but this is a time to engage with these people and build relationships with them. That's what the top of the funnel is about. All these tactics I showed you, I learned from 20 years of listening to KISS, right? Because I am a card-carrying member of the KISS Army, and I truly believe that they are the best content marketers on the planet. And it's up to us to kind of learn from these folks who know how to connect, empower, engage their audiences, but ultimately drive some revenue. So, and I shot this one in Vegas. This is me on the side of the stage shooting KISS. So it says photo courtesy of me. Anyway, that's all I got, folks. So.
I love the idea of the turkey metaphor, slice up the turkey, etc. So a lot of what comes out of that is like series, right? Series of video series or like job fact series, or career article series, etc. What are your thoughts on series? How long? Are you just sort of, every time you put a new article or video in the series, are you just sort of getting the attention from the same people over and over, or what do you think about series like that?
Well, I think look at television, right? Where content marketers need to look at television. How long has Dexter ran? 8 seasons, and it was the worst season ever. The idea is to use this until it stops working, right? If you're tying this stuff back to metrics you can measure, if they're going down, then you stop doing it. But the sophisticated guide is something that came from just an idea that I had from this jazz CD I was carrying around for like a year. It's just like it had this sophisticated look to it, and I thought, oh, LinkedIn now, it's a little more sophisticated than the other channel. But again, what's going to come out of this next is the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Next, right? So you want numbers? This guide alone, I've got to put this in there. This one piece of content had a 21,000% ROI. It drove over $4 million worth of business. That's insane. From one piece of content, right? And it's all about tracking. But we're going to use this until the revenue is 0 from it. So the idea is use it until it's dead. Like a Tony Soprano approach, like strangle it on the side of the road, and then bury it in the desert, and then go move on to the next. That was horrible. Move on to the next thing. But again, I think use it until people stop caring. And again, this is all based on top of funnel, bringing these people in, and then tracking it all the way through to revenue. So if this stuff, if you can't tell if this is not working, that's your first problem. But if you can tell it's working and you're still getting a positive ROI on it, at 21,000, I think we can milk this thing for the next decade probably, right? KISS will be retired 10 times over by the time we're done with this. So yeah, until it stops working, I think is the simple answer. When do you want Motley Crue just retire this year? Because nobody wants to see Mick Mars disintegrate on stage in the next couple of years, right? So, my boring comments there, I don't know where it's coming from. But the idea is they're going out while they're on top, right? So once the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide or the series starts getting tarnished and people start complaining, and the same people keep coming back and commenting, then it's like we retire it and then come up with some other kind of concept. But again, it's all based on are we answering our customers' questions at the end of the day. That was a really long answer. I don't know if I... Yeah.
By the way, they're not retiring, they're still on tour.
Oh, no, this is the last one.
Okay. Motley Crue, by the way. Just so you know.
One question and a Motley Crue correction. Jeez, you guys. Well, hopefully you found it useful. I'll be hanging out today, so hopefully we'll say hi. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Just search Jason Miller LinkedIn. Hopefully my first one pops up. So thanks, guys.